Hello guys, unfortunately there is the major issue with investigation of the Jeju Air aviation accident. So we have the new update released that cockpit voice recorder stopped recording at 0858 before the crew declared emergency exactly at 0859. So it happened about 4 minutes prior to impact. So yeah, the data is downloaded from the cockpit voice recorder and also from the flight data recorder, but it is absent for the last 4 crucial minutes. Honestly guys, I'm out of words because without flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, we cannot detailedly explain by every second and millisecond of what exactly was happening on board. Like we have those 2 black boxes, but the information is just erased. So let's pick why could it be like that. So I will refer to Blank channel, also airline pilot who is more experienced than me and I would say more competent. Let's watch his latest video. The link for it I'll share in the video description below for the channel and for this video.
Breaking news out of Washington. The NTSB has confirmed that the critical last 4 minutes of data is missing on both the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder on the Jeju 737-800 that crashed in South Korea on December the 29th. Let's check it out. These critical last 4 minutes of missing data correlate with the fact that the ADS-B data was also missing for those last 4 minutes, and it looks like the last word that we heard from the crew was at 8:59 when they declared the Mayday. So 8:59 to 9:03 is roughly those last 4 minutes, indicating to me that this crew or this aircraft suffered some sort of major electrical failure.
Yeah, before we go to review the electrical scheme of the airplane, 100% I agree with John Brown. It was the failure of electrical system, which is in its turn connected to the generators of the engines because they produce the electrical power for the airplane in normal flight. Yes, also there are the batteries, but it's only for essentials in case of emergency.
I've been scouring Chris Brady's 737 technical website to find the exact power source of both the CVR and the FDR, but thanks to some folks over on Patreon, I've narrowed it down to the source of electrical power for both the CVR and FDR apparently are AC transfer bus number 1 with a backup of AC transfer bus number 2.
So yeah, you have like 2 of the generators which supply electrical power to respective buses, and those buses supply different of the airplane systems which work from electricity or on electricity. And as a Boeing 737 pilot, actually I was quite surprised knowing that flight data recorder operates from alternate current transfer bus 1, because this is one of the main buses. However, it's not the essential bus which you require for continuation of the flight without engines, let's say. So maybe the good thing for it to be powered by the AC standby bus, which is powered through the battery via inverter. Especially then on a Boeing 737 NG, there are 2 of the batteries, not 1 as it was in Boeing 737 Classic. So definitely you have more time in the air. With 2 of the batteries, you can power consumers like flight data recorder, or maybe flight data recorder, as it is now released on many of the airplanes, has its own separate accumulator battery to be powered all the time. But here on Boeing 737, if you lose 2 of the engines, your flight data recorder data is just lost because the flight data recorder is not receiving any sort of the current to operate it. It's crazy actually, as for me. I think, and probably you agree with me, that black boxes should work all the time, with engines, without engines, with the normal operation of the electrical system or without, doesn't matter. But here on Boeing 737 NG, it's the different story. Well, in some of the airplanes, you have the cockpit voice recorder connected to AC standby bus. Yes, here we speak about cockpit voice recorder already. So flight data recorder, understandable, works from one of the main buses, and the cockpit voice recorder depends on the aircraft serial number and what is there installed, because Boeing put different stuff into different airplanes. So you have the option to power the cockpit voice recorder from AC standby bus or again from the main bus, and just after the engine start you have this cockpit voice recorder working. If you lose engines, you don't have anything. You don't have flight data recorder, you don't have cockpit voice recorder.
Which surprises me in the design of the 737. I would think it would be a more robust design if these critical items were either powered by an independent battery, which apparently This predates the FAA regulations requiring that the FDR and CVR have their own independent battery, or that they be wired up to the backup emergency electrical system, which in the 737 is the battery. In the event of the 737, if you were to lose the left AC bus and the right AC bus, the electrical system will default to the battery or the standby electrical system via the hot battery bus, which is hardwired to the battery, the switched hot battery bus, the battery bus, the DC standby bus, and the AC standby bus through this static inverter. Now here's the long laundry list of things that are still operational when the 737 is down to standby power, powered by the battery. But unfortunately, if the flight data recorder is not a part of this, is not powered by this standby system, and the flight data recorder is out, we have no idea what systems are operational in the aircraft. Remember, there's no RAT or ram air turbine in the 737 design. It doesn't need one because it uses this battery as the backup. And in this particular emergency, the crew did not have time to fire up the APU, the auxiliary power unit. That could have provided power, complete electrical power to the entire aircraft. But it takes time to spool up that APU. And all this data is crucial in the last 4 minutes because we're trying to answer the question, did the crew accidentally shut down the wrong engine? At this time, we don't know what buses were powered or unpowered. We don't even know what engines had power, some power, or no power. All this data is critical to the investigation of this accident. So remember, the Koreans said they downloaded the cockpit voice recorder information. And because of a damaged connector, they sent the flight data recorder just straight to the NTSB without trying to download any data. But here's what they say according to the Aviation Week article that just came out. The Boeing 737's 800 damaged flight recorder was sent to the NTSB in Washington, D.C. for data extraction. The cockpit voice recorder data was extracted in Seoul, but when investigators, there I assume, realized that some data was apparently missing, the CVR, the device, was sent to the NTSB for further analysis. So what happened to the critical 4 minutes of data on both the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder? Now the NTSB has to figure out why these two devices stopped recording before they can even begin to unravel exactly what happened with certainty in this accident. Thank you so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this.
John, thank you so much for explaining it to us, and this is the crucial piece of information that probably will not have any sort of the information, because if the data is if the power to the unit which records all of the data, all of the system's operation of the airplane to power the system is lost, it's just physically unable to record anything. And guys, this particular aviation accident has so many mysteries behind. 4 minutes, crucial minutes, something happened really fast, bird strike. We have the clue, the main clue that it was the bird strike. We have some of the videos, belly landing, no flaps landing. Number 2, engine working. Number 1 seems to be not. But again, we cannot prove it right now without direct evidence. I just hope that aviation investigators will see other clues of what potentially it could be. I think that you may understand whether the engine was working or not. We're speaking about engine number 1. Like you have different damage to the compressor, turbine and everything if it rotates at the high speed. So they will finally find out this piece of information, but in general, like to see everything in precise details, it's not possible. Well, the good thing, guys, that we all rose the awareness about the poor construction design of ILS antenna, or it's better to say the wall the antenna was mounted on. So it will be replaced or removed in this airport, and 3 more airports in South Korea with such structures have been identified. So yeah, we did good actually speaking about this major issue, which actually caused the major damage towards the airplane. And I hope it will be revised not just in South Korea, but in many of the countries. There should be international regulations applied for those ILS antennas and so on. So there should be no any kind of the huge obstacles there behind the runway if the area is free, so you do not put extra obstacles. And you know guys, there are many of the cases of the runway excursion elsewhere with different aircraft types, and to minimize the damage to the airplane and minimize the risk for the people on the ground, well, there is the special solution for that. Let me show you.
The answer was Engineered Materials Arresting System, or EMAS, a high energy absorbing material that could be installed beyond the end of the runways. Sometimes referred to as an arrestor bed, EMAS is made up of lightweight and crushable materials that are designed to collapse under the weight of an aircraft, usually above 12 tons. As the landing gear sinks into and rolls through the material, the aircraft gradually decelerates. But what is EMAS exactly made up of that can stop an aircraft moving at a speed of 70 knots? These pebbles are what is at the core of the EMAS.
Well, 70 knots is not that great speed, but in case of the Jeju Air, the aircraft could have been slowed down or even stopped because of the huge drag since airplane performed the belly landing, so no landing gear. Just a little amount of politics here, but you'll understand why.
Spoke to our future vice president, and he's okay. Do you know he was in a big accident with a plane? The plane skidded off the runway and was pretty close to grave danger, but I just spoke to Mike Pence, and he's fine.
That was in reference to an incident that happened on October 27, 2016, when a Boeing 737 with 37 people on board, including then vice presidential candidate Mike Pence, overran the runway while landing at LaGuardia. Thanks to the EMAS, the airplane came to a stop with no casualties or serious damages.
I don't know whether it's the local initiative or regulations applied in this particular state, but yeah, obviously it's better to have this kind of thing in use because it really helps. In this case, it didn't help like completely, but it slowed down the airplane. Just look, it slowed down the airplane excurted the runway to the side, but most of the energy was lost on the way. So fantastic thing, and I would like to see it in major airports where we fly and operate our airplanes for safety of the passengers. So guys, I wish you all a peaceful sky as usual. Have a great time.